my husband's really going to have to make the decision, but the way it is now, I'm leaning towards you. He's got a friend who's a realtor, and we've worked with him in the past.
Oh, yeah. I completely understand, Chris. In fact, if your spouse was anything like my spouse, they know that when you sell this home, getting the money out of the proceeds is important to you, putting it back in your pocket. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a business decision. We see that.
It's a business decision. Yeah. And, I would say that most people I speak with, like you, Chris, do have some type of friend or family or someone in the business. And so my question is, how well do you know your husband's friend when it comes to being an aggressive, skilled real estate agent?
Well, like I said, it's somebody we worked with in the past, and we felt like it's possible he could have gotten more from the last place that we sold with him. That's why we
Hmm.
wanted to interview other people. I guess one of the concerns we were thinking about is just generally how many homes you've sold in this area, because I see, on your name, there's two counties. So,
Okay, I'm just out of role play for a second. Are we in the presentation or are we on the phone? Because you said we're leaning towards you, and I'm not sure where we're at in this.
well, this is what I got just the other day, and there was no chance for a presentation. So it just kind of came up like, I sent them digital assets.
Okay. All
The
right, all right.
feedback was, yeah.
I'll take over that from there. Okay, so Chris, what I'm hearing is that you looked at everything I've sent over to you. You're comparing that with your husband's friend because you worked with them in the past. How many other brokers are you comparing what I do to what they may possibly do to sell your home?
At least one or two more. So probably three or four. I mean, I've been
Three,
tasked
four.
with some extra
Okay.
research. So,
Okay. May I make a suggestion?
oh, sure.
Yeah. So in the process of interviewing three or four, at this point, I believe that it makes sense that we go ahead and get together. So, Chris, you and your wife will be shown an actual plan to sell your home. And then, of course, if for whatever reason you're not 100% convinced that I'm the right agent for you, you don't have to hire me, do you?
No, no, that's true.
Yeah.
It's going to be
Just,
a little hectic just because we're out of state and trying to pin us down at the same time. So, uh, you
yeah.
know,
So, Chris, just based on the information that I sent over to you and from what I'm hearing, there's a couple things that we can do from here. Number one is you can go ahead and hire me. So you put me into work and I can have this sold for you, completely knock it out of the park like you and your wife want. Or number two, we can do a Zoom call virtually since you're not in state. And of course, I can present you with an actual plan to sell your home. Or number three is you fly in and we meet in person. Which one's going to work best for you?
again, I'm going to have to ask him just to see. I think it's probably going to be in a Zoom call.
A Zoom call, okay. And typically, what works best for you and your husband? Is it afternoons or evenings?
Well, we're in Central Standard Time, so probably going to end up being uh, sometime midday.
Sometime midday, great. And so tomorrow around 2 p.m., would it offend you if I was to schedule something around that time?
No, of course not.
Great. And so, Chris, just two things, before we meet with you and your husband, an email will be sent over to you with the actual sales and marketing agreement so you could read through it. It'll have a DocuSign also. So if for some reason you want to go ahead and hire me, like most people do, you can just log into your email, follow the prompts. It's going to have you initial things like that. That way I can get to work for you right away and not waste any time. Should you have questions, a link will be sent to a Zoom call for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And that being said, you have any questions for me right now, or are we just going to meet tomorrow at Zoom, or you go ahead and put me to work for you? Which one's going to make the most sense?
Yeah, if I have to change the appointment, how do you want me to let you know? Just text?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Why don't you just call me, text me, email me, and we can always change. I understand that our schedules can be typically fluid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Chris, thank you. I look forward to meeting with you and your husband tomorrow at 2 o'clock on the phone. And just a reminder, the sales and marketing group will be in your email. So, should after reading all the content I said over to you, you feel like I am the right agent, like most people do, you could just go ahead and hire me and I'll get to work for you sooner. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right. See you tomorrow at 2 o'clock on Zoom.
Can I make a like statement or feedback if that's
Yeah,
okay?
please.
Uh, one thing I've noticed with you, and I heard your past experience or past, your tone, your voice, everything is just calm demeanor and like very confident within that. Like I remember I heard your past like vague statement. How do you always like stay within that presence tone of just pushing forward or just leading that way? I just wondering like how do you stay in that mindset? If that's okay to ask and all.
No, that's a great question. So I actually used to talk really fast. And
Uh-huh.
so intentionally I focus on slowing down and pacing myself. Sometimes I'll talk a little faster to mirror and match the person that I'm talking to. But even if I do that, I'll still try to slow them down to make them feel more comfortable. Also, when you're talking a more pleasant, calm voice, it tends to make the person that you're talking to it kind of drops their defenses a little bit rather than, if you're talking to a fast talker, they can bring up their defenses. I notice that when I slow things down and use presuppositions such as, you know, it, I, like, for example, I said, would it offend you if I go ahead and set something up where we get together? Just things like that also disarm them. So, practicing new things that'll help me to get in there a little bit more of like a ninja rather than forceful. Anybody else want to do some objection handling?
I have a objection or a question of like some when I call because I kind of I guess you would say just sold or whatever. Like people say like, do you see a for sale sign on my house? Like, why are you calling me? Like,
Oh.
how do you handle that? It's just
Is
if
so
that's even possible.
yeah, so let's frame it just so I understand. So is it a legitimate for sale by owner?
No, it's not a legitimate for sale by owner. It's just calling the neighborhood and sometimes I get that objection. It's like, why are you calling me? Do you see a for sale sign?
Yeah, so let's say that you're just calling around to see if anybody has an interest to sell. Is that what I'm
Yeah,
hearing? Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, so I would say something like, you know, please understand, I'm not trying to offend you. In fact, I'm not quite sure who in the neighborhood does have an interest to sell. But having recently sold two homes like yours here in the neighborhood, and both had multiple offers, typically when one home sells with this much activity, a few more will sell afterward. And so what I'm trying to do is get ahead of anybody who has an intention to sell. Curious, if you were to sell, when would that be?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you would just reframe it back at them. You could bring like a value, you hang a dare it, and just curious, like when would it be? And if they want to talk, they'll talk. If not, you move on.
Yeah. And then I'll just continue to ask logical questions. If they're like, well, I don't plan to sell anytime at all, I would say, understood. You're one of those people that plans to stay in the home. Then frankly, I've been talking to a lot of the other neighbors, and they all say the same thing. It seems like everybody in the neighborhood really loves this neighborhood. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I get that. And so what I'm realizing also is that when a home does come up for sale, it really sells with multiple offers. I understand right now that you don't have any intention to sell, you're probably planning to die there, et cetera. So who else do you know in the neighborhood that you've been hearing, whether you've been walking your dog or just passing through? Who else do you know in the neighborhood that's been speaking about selling?
Uh-huh. And then you would just try to capture data from like the neighbor or something like that. That would be the next
Well,
move.
it's if you're doing circle prospecting, it's when do you plan on moving? Do you have an interest to sell? If not, who do you know that has an interest to sell? And then you're really stuck. You just got to go on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you could even say something like, well, I'm not sure if you're curious, but when these two homes that I put under contract close, it's going to have a direct impact on the price of your home. I'm happy to keep you updated on where they sell. Would you like me to do that for you? And then you can get their email, you can add them to your database, and then you can add them to some type of drip campaign, et cetera, and then nurture that lead.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Mhm. Jose.
Two things I'm going to say. One of them was your question on how Sohail's so calm, collected, and his tone of voice is so smooth. Aaron gave this example maybe like 6 months ago, and he gave an example of his son basically playing soccer. And what would happen with his son is that as soon as he would get very close to the goal, he would like feel rushed and he would miss the goal. So what Aaron told him was that because his son was not practicing that same exact scenario, the game seemed super fast to him. And therefore, when he was in that situation, it was fast. What happened with somebody like Sohail, because he's practiced so much and he's done it so many times, is that the game is super slow for him, where now he's able to slow it down a lot. So the way to slow down, like almost like imagine like Kobe Bryant making a game-winning shot or Michael Jordan making a game-winning shot. Imagine how many times they practice that exact scenario or that exact play to the point where they're actually in the real game. It's actually a little bit slow than most people. And they can make adjustments on the fly because they practice so much. So I would say that the reason Sohail's like that is because he has put in so many reps already. So when you see something like that, it's not something like, oh my God, Sohail. It's something that you can actually replicate, basically.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Adam, Jose is absolutely right. In fact, I don't know if he's on here. There's a guy, Justin, who I've been role playing with for the past couple of weeks. And just in those past couple of weeks, I've actually started to utilize a lot of the skills that he uses. He slows down, uses a lot of presuppositions before he asks questions, and that tends to disarm them. And we role play every single morning, and that's why the practice is so important. So important. In just a couple of weeks, I picked up so much from this guy that my skills have improved dramatically, because typically I have been like the hard closer. And now I backed off a little bit and kind of learned from him as to how to go in a little bit more like a ninja, more powerful and less forceful.
Appreciate the shout out.
Yeah, you got it, brother. It's true.
The other thing that I was going to say was on the second part of it. Do you see a for sale sign? Remember, I think it was you that asked me about a framework as to like, how do you typically handle objections? And I said, okay, I'll either repeat and approve, I'll agree with them, or I'll question soften it, or I'll just ask a question. So in a case like that, like you could say, you're right, you don't have a for sale sign in your front yard. What does that do? Lets the guard down right away. Because it's like if I start off if let's say I'm arguing with my significant other, right? And we have a disagreement. I'm like, you're right. What's the first thing that's gonna happen? Is the moment I say you're right, this is this. What's gonna happen to my significant other is gonna be like the guard comes down completely. So it's the same thing. It's like, you're right, you don't have a for sale sign on your yard. And you're right, you didn't ask for me to call you. The reason I'm calling you is there's a shortage of inventory right now, and was wondering if you would ever consider taking advantage of the high prices. Is that something that you would consider? Or you can even say, whenever there's a little bit of conflict, I'm like, you're right, you don't have a for sale sign on your front yard, and you're right, you didn't ask me to call you. I was calling you very professionally and respectfully because there's a shortage of inventory right now in the market, and I was wondering if you would ever consider selling your property. Do you see how the very professionally and respectfully actually de-escalate something right away? Because it almost sets the tone like, hey, sir, I'm not being disrespectful in any way. I'm not saying anything like to hurt you. I'm basically calling you very professional and respectfully. It sets the tone of the conversation as well too. So sometimes when I notice that there's a little bit of like almost like not conflict, but like almost like, why are you calling me? Like, you're just like everybody else. I'm like, hey, look, I'm calling you very professionally and respectfully. And that de-escalates a lot of the things.
Awesome.
And Adam, that was something that I learned from a role play partner. That was something that a role play partner, I was role playing with him. And he's like, look, I was calling you very professionally and respectfully. And when he said that to me, I was like, I noticed what it did to my role play. I was like, man, like, there's nothing I could say after that. And then I took it from him. I'm like, this is a gold nugget. Just like Sohail took stuff from Justin. That's all that role playing does, is you basically hear gold nuggets. You're like, oh, I'm going to kidnap that. I'm going to use that. And then your vocabulary starts to expand. The game starts to slow down for you. And then before you know it, you're having very fluid conversations with people about buying and selling. and then now you're closing deals, and now your income starts to go up. Yeah,
Can I jump in here and do expired?
Let's do it.
All right. Ring ring.
Who wants to be the seller?
I'll be the seller.
All right.
Go ahead.
All right. Ring ring.
Hello?
Yeah, Andrew?
Who's this?
Andrew, hey, good morning. This is Bahati. I'm with the Kaminsky Real Estate team. How you doing?
I'm not doing so good, man. All you guys are giving me a call right now. So what can I do for you?
I apologize. I just want to say I apologize. I'll make a note here and I won't bother you. However, since I do have you on the line already, I was calling you regarding your property on 123 Main Street. Obviously, you already know it's came off the market, and I was really interested because I saw the property and it's a beautiful property. I mean, the price was good, and I saw that it didn't end up selling. So I was curious, what do you feel happened?
Yeah, honestly, like I said, we're pretty much fed up with that. It's just obviously the interest rates, and we're just probably going to wait till Trump hits the office, and we'll be good next year. So thank you so much for the call. I really do appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. And before I let you go, Andrew, you said that you're going to wait until who gets into office, and then you'll consider making the decision based on what happens. Is that
of course.
What I understand?
Yeah, I mean, that's what's happening right now, right? Nothing's really selling, so we're just kind of frustrated with it. We were on the month for 6 months, and nothing happened. So
yeah, I can see how that could be very frustrating. Can I ask you a question, Andrew?
Yeah, go ahead.
What was the initial reason that you even considered selling this place?
Well, it's kind of personal, but basically we're just tired of the stairs. And so where do you want to go to a retirement community? And we thought we would already be there already. So we're just going to wait till next year, man. Send us your information and we'll get back to you.
Yeah. And, I don't want to continue taking any of your time. However, if there was a way, Andrew, that we could get you to what you wanted where you don't have the inconvenience of stairs into the retirement community, let's just say in the next 30 to 60 days, would that be something that you'd be opposed to looking into?
No, but I want to ask you a straightforward question. Where were you at 6 months ago?
I wish we would have been introduced, or else you wouldn't be in this position, just because I feel very confident that we would be able to get this sold in the next 30 to 60 days. So do you have some time available tomorrow in the afternoon? And that way I can show you what we do so you don't have to go through this frustration again and have to wait to see who's going to get elected and continue dealing with all the stairs. Do you have some time tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much almost retired, so we stay at the house. I really don't want to waste my time or your time. Can you just tell me what you're going to do, differently?
You know what I appreciate about you, Andrew? You seem like a very straight shooter, and that's exactly how I am as well. So look, the last thing we're going to do is waste time. What I'll do for you, so you feel comfortable and confident in me coming over and that we're going to do a good job for you, I'm going to send you a package of information that'll show you exactly who we are and our track record. That way you know exactly that you're not wasting any of your time. So once I send that over to you, let's schedule a time tomorrow so I can put you in the calendar. Are you usually available in the mornings or afternoons?
We're early risers, so 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Yeah.
Okay. 11:30 work, okay?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. I'm going to pencil you in for 11:30. I'll send you that package of information. What's the best email to send you the calendar invite to? 123@gmail.com.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. I'll pencil you in. I'll send that calendar invite. And please take a moment to review it, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
How'd you feel?
A little nervous, getting marbles out of my mouth, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm not the expert here, so I'll let everybody else say that.
Now, give them some feedback, Andrew.
Yeah, so what I would say is there was a lot of uncertainty in your asking, like, hey, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I have one more question. Those are really opportunities where somebody could just hang up, from my experience. So I would just jump into it. Hey, if I heard something about stairs, I'm like, wow, I can only imagine how that is, emphasize that. Those are a couple of things that I picked out. There's you're asking them for permission. You already have them on the phone. Just get your questions out.
Yeah. And I think underneath that, because we've talked about this before, with the young man who just went. Good for you, by the way.
Yeah, awesome. Good job.
I know it takes a lot of courage to like jump out and do your thing.
Thanks.
So I'm aware that I gave you feedback of this last time. Is underneath it is like this, underneath the apologetic tone, and it's starting to seep out in language like, hey, hopefully this isn't a good time, or like, hey, I don't want to bother you, or like that sort of thing, is a belief that you are bothering them. Like that's what's underneath it. So that's the thing that needs to be addressed. And the way that I perceive it is like, hey, let me ask you a question, right? Are you going to do a great job for them?
Yeah.
Are there agents out there who are rum-dums?
Yep.
Are there agents out there that if they hired them, they would give all other agents a bad name?
Yep.
So by me reaching out to them and offering to help them, I'm actually preventing that from happening. Yes or yes?
Yep. So
as such, I have zero hesitation or feel apologetic in any way of saying like, hey, how can I be of help? How can I be of help? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't view it as like, bothersome in any way. Like I'm on mission, I'm on purpose. My intention is to discover if you have a need that I can help you with. And if I can, I'm going to offer my services. And I'm actually doing you a service by doing so. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with a mediocre agent who's going to cost you lots of time and money.
So, Aaron, I have a question. So this whole part of that I've heard and with several different people about being like empathetic and kind of getting on their side and understanding
empathy,
their frustration and all that. What is that?
Let's think of language. Empathy is different than apology. Okay? So this is good because we're giving everybody on this call a course in emotional intelligence. Empathy is different than apology. So when I say the word apology to you, what comes up?
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry for what? Like I have done something, what?
Wrong.
Ah, interesting. So do you see underneath, if I have an apologetic tone, it's like I'm saying, hey, I am doing something wrong here. I'm calling you, I'm bothering you, like blah, 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 blah. Like underneath it. Okay. Empathy, when I say that word to you, what comes up?
Understanding.
So sympathy is where I feel for you. Empathy is where I feel with you. I feel what you're feeling. Right?
Yeah.
Those are different things. And it's good that we're getting clarity because we need to understand what words mean. Part of the reason why I think we don't produce the outcomes that we want is because we're not clear on what words mean. But there's a completely clear difference between empathy and apology. Or sympathy. They're actually like all different. Sympathy is I feel for you. Empathy is I feel with you. Yeah, listen, man, I understand. I'm pretty sure you did not wake up this morning with the expectation of being super popular with real estate agents, right? I know that could be very annoying, and I'll be sure to take that off my list. That is what? Empathy. I feel with you. I understand that this is annoying, right?
Yeah.
Now notice, is there any apology in there?
No.
Some people do like, hey, I'm sorry you're getting so many phone calls. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry to bother you at 8 a.m. in the morning. It's apology. Those are two different things. Whenever I hear people apologizing for people on the phone, I'm like, why? What are you doing? Like, you didn't do anything. Why are you apologizing?
It reminds me of that one thing that you mentioned. I think it was an older video, but I have them on like replay. Is when you're like, it's like yelling at the lawn guy for why are you doing my job? Why are you cutting my grass? Like,
yeah. Imagine going outside and the lawn guy's out there and you're like, hey, what do you think you're doing over here? He's like, dude, I'm cutting the grass. Like, yeah. Who told you cut the grass? He's like, dude, it's my job. So what I'm aware of is when you signed up to be a salesperson, you signed up to talk, you signed up to interrupt people all the time. That's your job. I have to interrupt you to get you on the phone. I have to interrupt you when you're on your way to work. I have to interrupt you when you're eating dinner. I have to interrupt you. Do you know, bro, I walk into rooms full of people with my wife here locally. I'm like, I wonder how many people in this room hung up on me or called me a name my mom didn't give me. Like, I just need to come, like, accept that that's what's true. Right? And then be clear on the distinction of what those words mean. Like, there's a difference between agreeing with you and just acknowledge. Agreeing is like, I agree. We're in alignment. Acknowledgement is like, I heard you. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man, I'm getting all these people calling me, and most people want to be like, well, I'm sorry about that. Instead, I'm like, yeah, I understand that could be annoying. I'm acknowledging what you said. I heard you. I'm not agreeing with you.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I'll be the first to take it off my list, right? I know that can be frustrating. Just so you know, the reason why that's happening is your property was on the market, obviously. You signed it with a previous agent, looks like Jim. And that agent actually, I mean, that agreement actually expired today in the multiple listing service. That's why you're so popular. It'll persist for probably another day or so, and then it should slow down and stop. Because do all of them even know why they're getting phone calls? No.
Right.
So now I'm helping you. I'm giving you, I acknowledged that you're annoyed. I get it. B, I demonstrated empathy. I understand you're frustrated. I feel what you're feeling. And then C, I gave you information that you weren't aware of. It's like, yeah, and before I take it off, I'll be sure to take it off my list. And before I let you go while I have you on the phone, I guess I'm curious. I mean, your home's lovely. It's in a great geographic area. What do you think stopped it from selling? Now, you want to position yourself as a guide to help people to solve their problems, not as a hero. But the way that you position yourself as a guide is you have to deploy two things. One is empathy. Two is competency. We already defined what empathy is. I feel with you. What is competency?
Knowing that you can help.
Yeah, knowing that, like, I know what I'm doing. How do I demonstrate I know what I'm doing? By verbally vomiting and telling them I know what I'm doing?
Asking questions.
Ah, there you go. Instead of being like, well, don't you know who I am? And while your home was on the market, I sold 50. No, that is not how you do that. That's you being a hero. The way you do that instead is by asking a series of detailed questions, which demonstrates that you know what you're doing. So empathy and competency, and get out of apology unless you've actually done something.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
I think too, on top of that, what Aaron said that was really powerful is when we signed up to be real estate agents, this is what we signed up for, And when I got started in the business, I don't think I realized that's what I signed up for. I thought I came from a retail background. I thought people were just going to come to me, which that's not the case. So I think that embracing that in his own, I think is extremely powerful. Like, what did we actually sign up for? And what is our actual job? What is our daily responsibilities as an agent, basically? What else? Who else wants to role play? We got AAA in the house.
What's going on, man? You ready for a rematch?
Well, I was about to say, I think you need some basketball lessons on this call, Jose.
What's up?
Oh no, bro.
Oh, believe me, brother, I'm ready. I'm light. I'm lean. I've been practicing every Friday, bro. I'm telling you, what's going on?
I'll go with. I need to think about it.
Let's do it.
All right. So who's going?
Yeah, I can be the seller too.
Okay, cool. So it's a big decision, isn't it?
Oh wait, are we at the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it really is, and we don't plan on actually making a decision here until we interview a few more people.
Got it. Okay. And before I go, would you mind if I share with you a decision-making framework that's been really helpful for sellers like you?
Hold on. What did he say before that? What did he say that before he what?
Before I go.
No. He said before he's like
more
not planning on doing anything until we interview more people.
Yeah.
Got it. So that's a different objection as well, too.
Okay, so handle that.
That interrupts a pattern, basically.
Right.
So or at least acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It was like, hey, I'm not doing it until I interview more people. Acknowledge it and dig a little bit deeper on that. Because I think what's going to happen right here is he could go into. Hold on, guys.
Yeah, and what Jose was saying there too is like acknowledge but not agree. So like, yeah, I understand it's a big decision. You want to make sure you're making the best decision possible. And what I'm aware of is that you're usually given the advice as a consumer to meet with more than one agent. Because in my business, I don't know if you're aware of this, 5% of the agents sell 95% of the properties. Did you know that?
No.
And they're like, no. It's like, yeah. So they give you the advice to meet with more than one in hopes that you'll find the one who fits that category. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
You know what the great news is, Eric?
What?
Is on your first shot, I mean, you found that agent. We help all of these people on a regular basis, like we discussed, you know, in terms of helping them to transact. So usually when somebody tells me they want to think about it, or perhaps talk to another agent, particularly after we meet in person, they see our track record reviews and such, it's usually around a few things. So before I go, I'd like to share them with you. So that way you can make the decision that you feel is best. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. Fair enough?
Yes.
All right. So the first thing perhaps that they want to think about, or maybe speak to somebody else about, is the price. You know, like ultimately how much we're going to set on the home. And what I'm aware of is we had a conversation in preparation for connecting. I know you indicated you would like it to be more. I sure would as well, because the more we sell it for, the more we get compensated to do that. Are we in agreement that the marketplace is showing us, based on closed transactions in the last 90 days, somewhere around 850 seems to be reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. So if somebody else was to come inside of your home and tell you you could get 925, having looked at this information, do you think you would consider listing with them?
No.
Okay. And why is that?
I think they're full of BS.
Yeah, I would agree with that, because would you say that agents have access to the same information?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So either they're misinformed, they don't know, or they do know and they're just trying to buy your business. And it sounds like you don't want that type of agent, correct?
Correct.
Okay, good. The second thing that perhaps they want to get another opinion on or kind of think about is the marketing plan of action. Specifically, what we're going to be doing to ensure that we get you top dollar. I know we reviewed that together as a team, having looked at that plan and seen the results that it has produced over the last 12 months for homeowners just like you. Do you have any additional questions about that? Do you feel like it would help you to accomplish the same goal?
Yeah, I think that you're competent. You know what you're doing.
Good. Sounds like you're beginning to see why people like you hire me all the time for the job. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. And then the third thing, perhaps, that they wanted to think about is the commission. The professional fee that we charge to help you with the sales. That's something that you need a little bit more information on.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm more than happy to have that conversation with you. And I'm positive, Eric, that we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial to both parties. I want us both to feel good about what we're doing. Otherwise, we won't do it. So here's my question to you is, before we have that conversation, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, it sounds as though you've already decided that you would like for me to help you with the sale. We're in agreement with regards to price, the marketing program. It's just us having this conversation about the professional fee. And if we could agree to that, do you think there'd be any other reason why we couldn't get started today?
No.
Okay, great. So what were you thinking? And then I go down that track, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what he basically did is he incorporated the I'm interviewing other agents with the I need to think about it objection, basically. Almost like a combination. The other thing I was going to say is if somebody tells me, well, I want to interview other agents, I may dig a little bit deeper on that. So I may say, well, look, obviously you're in every right to do so. Let me ask you this. Do you already have any other interviews set up? Because what if they say like, yeah, I actually have someone coming in the next 10 minutes, or I have somebody coming in the next 15 minutes. And obviously this should have come up in the pre-qualification, but sometimes things change. So you want to make sure, like, kind of like almost like take the temperature of the room as well too. Okay, I understand obviously that you want to interview other agents, and obviously I respect that 100%. Let me ask you this, like, do you already have any other interview set up at this present moment? Are you planning on interviewing just one more agent, or do you have a couple of more interviews to do? Got it. Just so I'm clear, remind me again, like what qualities are you looking for in an agent, right? Okay. So aside from interviewing other agents, how do you feel about the price that the marketplace is recommending? How do you feel about the compensation? How do you feel about the marketing plan? And then I can go into, well, look, like it's a big decision, or I can go into something along the lines like what Aaron said about like, hey, most people typically recommend that you need to interview more than one agent, right? Most people typically recommend that it's a good idea to interview 2, 3, 4, 5 different agents, right? What they're really saying is that you need to interview as many people as you have to until you find the right one. You actually got really lucky, blah, blah, blah. You found the very best agent on your very first shot. Or can I tell you the good news? You actually got really lucky on your very first time. You got the very best agent on your very first try.
I like that.
That's a solid one, huh?
Yeah, that is. I'm not gonna lie. That was pretty legit.
You know who we got that, or I got that one from? I got that one from Neil Weichel.
Yeah,
he said that on stage one time, and when he said that, I was like, "Oh my goodness, that is the right thing to say."
It breaks the ice too. They start like laughing, and then all right, just go ahead and sign it.
That's exactly right. And breaking that tension is like important, and humor does that. You know what I mean? For sure. And what Jose was saying is like that's true. So if you notice, what I did is I addressed the interview more agents first, then went through the 3 decisions. I brought up the commission, I price, marketing plan, commission. We isolated commission. I isolated that objection, said, if we can come to agreement on that today, do you think there'd be any other reason we couldn't proceed and get started? He said, no. Great. What were you thinking? And then we go down that track. And then once we come to an agreement, he signs an agreement and I leave.
After going over the marketing plan of actions, a lot of times I'm able to circle back and close again. Or a lot of times what it does is it basically separates me from a lot of the other agents because I'm really good at selling our services. The services are exactly the same as any other agent would offer, meaning like it's professional photography, it's a 3D tour, but the way I sell those services is actually really, really powerful. So what I would say is I would say something along the lines like, hey, look, like, obviously I understand that you're going to be talking to other agents. I want to make sure that if you are talking to other agents and you are okay with you, is I like to go over step by step what I'm going to do to market, to help you market and sell your property. This way, if you are comparing agents, you have a good idea as to what I would offer you versus what another agent would offer you. And basically, the services are all exactly the same. I just got really, really good at basically selling professional photography. And I just switched from to audio. Okay. Yeah. So I got really good at selling those services basically at that point. And I would go over that and then I would circle back commission. It's not sold on me completely yet. I'll recircle back and after I go over the service, I'll be like, look, Eric, obviously you can interview 10, 15 different agents. Obviously I am excited about the opportunity. I'm excited about helping you get the property on the market. I'm excited about this. I'm ready to go to work. Would you give me the opportunity to work with you? Or may go over different things at that point. I may go over different, like, let's say I go over the marketing plan and I'm like, hey, look, I don't believe that they're sold. I'm going to go over a couple of other things. I'll be like, hey, do you mind if I share with you how we handle a multiple offer situation? I may pull out this spreadsheet with all of the offers and I may pull up an example of where we got 35 offers on a property. If I know that they're like, hey, look, like we're selling and buying a property. Hey, do you want to know how I'm going to ensure that the property doesn't fall out of escrow? How would you do that? I may go over the Trello checklist at that point. And that's to the point where it's like, hey, look, I may not get the contract signed here, but I'm not leaving without them fully understanding what we offer. And I know, and Aaron says this, the services are exactly the same or very similar to what any other agent offers. But I believe that I am a better salesperson at selling those services than anybody else.
Yeah. So the money's not the service, it's in the selling of the service. So getting clear on that. And that's what Jose is describing. I also am aware as he's speaking, there's a difference between closing and presenting. They're two different things. So presenting, I present with like, kind of emotion. I close with logic, but with this team, it was very clear to me that they were going on appointments trying to get people to like them. They were up them back multiple times and they're not closing. Right. And they asked me a question. They're like, hey, well, if you close and stuff, like, sometimes people, they say they want to blah and like maybe they'll get mad. And I'm like, okay, well, truth is on a spectrum. So a lot of us think truth is like black and white. That's actually not the way it is. It's on a spectrum. Something's more true than something else. So if you aggressively close, and again, the way we teach it is like kind of like a velvet hammer. It's like I'm sequentially asking questions. It's logical. It's not like this like hard push, right? That's going to turn people off. But if I ask for business, right? Ask and you shall receive, knock and the door shall open. But it requires that I ask and it requires that I knock. It, you know, by making that request, you can flush out like what is the real issue that's stopping them from moving forward. Because usually it's a smokescreen. And again, what we were talking about before, I believe it's my job to, because if they don't and they end up with a mediocre agent, like that's my fault. I believe it's my job, it's my duty and obligation to not leave that appointment and be like, oh gosh, I wish I would have asked this way. I wish I'd asked one more time. I wish I, you know. And we've all been in that situation. And then they list with somebody else, right? So closing is saying like, hey, so based on the time that we spent together, based on what you've seen online and you know, the track record, things of that nature, have you already decided that you would like for me to handle the sale for you? Do you believe that I could help you to get this home sold? Look out for your best interest. Great. So then, you know, I have the appropriate paperwork with me. You're ready to get started today. Just having the courage to do that and imagining, like a lot of you guys imagine that you can like, I don't know, like sell with personality and people are just going to love you. She was like, yeah, I'm meeting with this investor and the property's not going to be ready for like a month or 2 months. And we've been talking for like 2 or 3 months. She didn't pre-qual at all. Didn't ask her like, when I see you, if it all makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident with me, I can help. Do you think you go ahead and hire me? She's like, well, she's not ready yet. I'm like, well, are you creating any urgency?
But then somebody else mentioned you were frozen.
I think Jose and Aaron are frozen.
Dang, there's just too much power, bro. Everything freezes up. You know what I'm saying? Plus, Jose has to pay.
The other thing is well, the other thing I would say is along the line of closing that listing presentation, I think some of us do it prematurely, and then it starts to be like it makes it actually more difficult for you to close. So I had an agent who sent out a listing agreement, and he sent out the listing agreement, but he didn't have a price for it, or didn't have like didn't have a price and didn't have a target date for coming on the market. So a lot of times, like part of my closing sequence is helping them move along the process. So I'll ask them a question, be like, okay, great. So if we did put the property on the market, when would you like to come on the market? And then they'll give me a date of when they want to come on the market. At that point, I already have a price. So what do you think you need for a contract signed? In order to have a contract signed, you need a price, you need a date for coming on the open market, and you need a basically commission. The commission, you can assume that if they don't obviously question it, you can assume whatever your professional fee is. But if you're closing like and you don't have the price, it's almost like you don't have what you need to be able to close, in my opinion, or you don't have what you need to be able to fill out a listing agreement. So I met with this guy who already wanted to list with me, and I'm like, hey, I just reconfirmed. I mean, what price you want to list it for? When do you want to come on the market? Are you okay with this? Great. I'm going to be filling out the paperwork. I'm going to explain it to you, and this is going to allow me to have everything that I need to be able to have your home on the market by Wednesday, which is the date that you want to have it on the market by. Is that okay with you? Yes, that's okay. Boom. I'm filling out the contract and then going over it with the client at that point, basically. But like, let's say that you don't know what date they want to come on the marketplace and you're over here closing because you don't have a date. That could be one of the objections that you have. So like, let's say that they don't want to come on the market for 30 days. And you didn't know that by having the date that they want to come on the market, it actually helps you understand their situation and when they want to come on the market. And it actually allows you to do like a coming soon campaign, right, or pitch a coming soon campaign. And if I do it
properly in pre-qual, I should know this. So, you know, when I see you, Jose, My job's to help you. It's never talk you to do anything. Like ideally, in terms of what you want, because that's what's most important, how soon would you like for me to have the home on the market for sale for you? So based on what they say, I'm going to know ahead of time before I even see them, the approach that I'm going to take, whether it's a pre-marketing plan, whether they want to get on the market right now and they're interviewing agent, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to know. So that way I can sell the service in the way that is important for them, like what they value, what's important to them.
Agreed. 100%. So along with that, even when I'm in front of a prospect, I'll even ask them like, hey, what date would you like to come on the market? And I'll show them a calendar. And when I show them the calendar, they'll be like, oh, I'm actually going out of town on this date. I have this. Because a lot of times they'll tell you like, hey, in the prequel, I want to come on the market in the next 30 days. But on the listing agreement, can you put on the listing agreement sometime in the next 30 days to come on the market? You could, but it's a little bit better if you actually put an actual date on it. So when you show them the calendar, they'll start to visualize it, like, oh, I'm going out of town this week. I actually get this week. We're going to be doing this to the property. Or they may be vague with you. They may be like, and they may end up picking out a date, probably like the 15th or the 25th. Or they may be like, to be honest, I really don't know. Like I got to do this, this, and this. And this is where you can guide them as well, too, where you can be like, well, look, I know you got to clean up the property. I'd probably budget a week for that. I know you're doing the carpet. I'd probably budget like 3 days for that. I know you said you're painting. I'd probably budget 7 days for that. I know that you said you're going out of town this week, so that probably wouldn't be a good week. How does the 25th or the 29th sound for you? Oh, that actually works. Got it. Now I have a date, basically. Now I can be like, hey, look, like we're in agreement on the price. We're in agreement on when you're going to come on the marketplace. I have everything ready to move forward. If you're okay with you, what I'll do is I'll fill out the contract. This will allow me to have X, Y, and Z ready so that we can be on the market by X, Y, and Z. Is that okay with you? Yes, it is. Great. Do you have any other questions before I go ahead and take care of the paperwork?
It's so
No,
solid.
I don't.
And by showing them the calendar, I want everybody to realize underneath what's happening. What's happening underneath is that mentally, like psychologically, you're moving the process forward. It's assumptively closing, like, hey, we're working together. You know what I'm saying? And then they go on, and the moment that they start to look, like Jose's saying, and they're like, well, like this weekend we're out of town, blah, blah, like they're working with you. It's already mentally, psychologically, we've moved the process forward.
It's better than any close, bro. It's better than any words I've ever said. So look, I'll get to the price. Like I'll be like, hey, like what price are you in agreement that the marketplace is showing us? I'll be like, oh, we're showing you 800,000. Great. I'm in agreement with that. I write it down. Great. The only other question that I have is, when would you like to come on the open market? And I'll show them a calendar. Be like, look, today is the 25th or whatever the date is. On my end, and this may be too soon for you, I need a minimum of 3 days from the time we take pictures. So if we take pictures on the 27th, 1, 2, 3, the earliest I can have it on the market would be the 30th. I understand that may be too soon for you. What would be an ideal date for you to come on the market? I'm not saying like, hey, do you want to work with me? I'm basically saying like, hey, we're working together. If you did come on the market, what date would you like to come on the market? They're selecting their own date. Now I have the price, I have the date. And if they don't question the commission, I'm assuming my own commission that I charge. Like, great, we're in agreement on the price. We're in agreement on when we want to come on the marketplace. Here's the next step.
And what it'll do is it'll flesh out. So like, let's say he does that.
Flesh out so many objections right there.
And let's say as they're, because they can feel what's happening. And they'll be like, oh, well, we haven't talked about the commission yet. Oh, okay, no problem. Well, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you with regards to the professional fee. Just so I'm clear, if we're in agreement on that today, do you think there'd be any other reason why we couldn't proceed? I set it aside, and they're like, no. He says, what were you thinking? He handles it. It's like, great. So now we're in agreement with regards to, when we're going to get started, where we're going to position the property price-wise, professional fee. So, I have the appropriate paperwork with me so we can get started. How's that sound? And they're like, okay. So it'll flesh it out.
Now, in some situations where in the prequel, they're like, look, Jose, commission's a problem. Like, I want this, I want that. I may, like, right after the calendar close, I'll be like, look, the only thing that we haven't talked about is the professional fee. Obviously, I want to make sure that you feel comfortable with that. Is there a certain compensation structure that you're looking for to try to see if I can accommodate? And now I've got the 3 things I need for a listing agreement.
And then
I've
again, going back to pre-qual,
commission.
Yeah, and if you go back to pre-qual, he knows that because they mentioned it in the pre-qual. That was another thing that popped up, Jose, when I was on that call with that team. They're not like asking all of the questions. So they're walking into situations blind, not really knowing what's important, not really knowing timeframes, not really knowing if they have an issue with the commission, not really knowing if they're interviewing other agents. And that's silly, dude. Like, the best attorneys never ask questions that they don't already know the answers to. Like, they go completely prepared. And for me to be walking into appointments and not knowing those things, you can't really like have a strategy. All you can rely on is like personality and like winging it. And that's just not going to work.
Well, I'll tell you this, the listing presentation that I have lost is because I didn't do a good job pre-qualifying. And I didn't really understand their situation 100%. Those are the ones where I'm just like, hey, I'm just winging it. Like, those are the ones that I'm like, oh man, I should have done this. Or, oh man, this. And it's so funny. It happened to my brother-in-law the other day. He didn't ask the question of how much the loan balance is. And he shows up to the presentation and the loan balance is higher than what the value of the property is.
Exactly.
And his strategy just completely switched.
Yeah. And he didn't know, and he could have made a decision if he even wanted to go. He could have made a decision like, am I going to really get it? Am I interested in helping somebody with a short sale? Like all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Somebody asked if you're willing to lower your commission. Do you guys agree to lower your commission, or do you try to keep it what you want?
Yeah. So I mean, obviously you want to try to preserve, but you have to demonstrate value. I think the real truth is I mean this lovingly, in the absence of value, the only thing to compete on is price. Like, nobody on this call cares that your iPhone's $1,000. Nobody. You guys lease them. Okay. You don't even own them. And the reason why you don't care that it's $1,000 is because it's so valuable. So I think the truth is many people have a hard time like preserving professional fees because they have a hard time articulating their actual value. If that makes sense. Right? Now, there's a way that you can handle it. Like, hey, what were you thinking? Like, I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial to all parties. I want you to feel comfortable with the decision that you end up making. I also want us both to feel good about what we're doing, Andrew. Otherwise, we won't do it. Now, you strike me to be someone who's pretty reasonable. I'm the same way. So I'm sure we'll be able to work it out. Tell me this. If we could agree on that, would there be any other reason why we couldn't get started? So making sure I follow that track, that talk track with that set aside. Because most of you guys like try to handle that. And then there's like objections behind it. And then you get like dejected and discouraged and pissed off and then leave and nobody signs anything, right? So you set it aside and then you're like, okay, what were you thinking? The reason why I asked you what were you thinking is because we're negotiating now and I want you to talk first. Now, Jose does something that it's so like orchestrated and rehearsed. But when he does it, it comes out like so good. So when somebody's like, well, Consuelo, I was thinking 4%. Jose will literally go like this. He'll be like, wow, 4%.
Or I'll take like a deep breath. Okay.
And then he'll be like he'll be like, total? Or like, just for me? And they'll be like, huh? It like totally catches them off guard. They're like, what? No, like I was thinking like total. It's like, oh, wow. Well, you know, that's certainly an option because I want to be clear, like you're the boss. My job is to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. What I'd like to do is to go over the compensation structure. So that way you can make a decision that you feel is best, whatever you decide, I'll support you. So the professional fee on our end to represent you to list the home is whatever it is. Whatever it is you want it to be. So now we're just having a conversation about, and as we discussed, you know, for that professional fee, here's what you get, right? Here's the value. And value, guys, that's a whole separate call. We could spend 2 hours talking about value. Like, what are they seeing online? How many reviews do you have? What does the pre-listing look like? Are you sending them a video before you see them? Like, you know, that's all of that perceived and real value. Like, what actually are you bringing to the table? You know, like if you list and sell with Jose, you get to use his moving truck for free. If you, you know, he's got a dump truck. Like if you need to fucking throw shit out, you get to use it for free. He'll lend you money for free. Like there's actual real value. Most of you guys are like, well, you know, I'm going to put it on the MLS. Yay! Like that's it. That's why you have such a hard time like trying to defend the value, because truthfully, like you're probably not adding that much value. So I want to use the same photographers as everybody else. Yay!
Well, when you don't have a separating factor, you're basically a commodity. You're just like everybody else. Basically.
Yeah, and then it's just the race to the bottom, and the absence of value. The only thing you compete on is price.
And there's so many things that could be of value. And like I said, we have a completely different call. Your value could be your knowledge. Like that's one of the things that I feel I have a competitive advantage of. That I know more about real estate than most people. That's a value proposition right there. People feel that. But yeah, so it's funny because when at the very beginning of my career, I had a mentor who told me never cut your commissions under no circumstances. And I was faced with a situation where a seller said, Jose, we like you. We want to work with you. But if you don't do it for 2% on the listing side, we're going to hire somebody else. And the old me would have walked away from that and would have called me. Like, the old me would have walked away from that and been like I told them no, yes, like I stood my ground. I basically protected my fee. And then I talked to Aaron one time, and Aaron's like, look, there are no rules. This is your business. In your business, you get to decide what you charge, and you get to decide what you're okay with. Now, if you've already done everything you could, and they're like, look, I'm literally going to sign with somebody else today if you don't do this, it's up to you to make a business decision if you're okay with that. So it was a $900,000 listing at that point. And at that point, that was like 2012, 2011. That was a large listing. That was a lot of money back then. That was 20 grand. I ended up agreeing to that 2%. I ended up representing another seller as a result of it. So it ended up leading to a second transaction. And after that, I was like, look, like I am my own business owner. I get to decide. Nobody tells me how much I charge. I get to decide what I am okay with and what I'm not okay with. And after that, like what I've done is I have creatively worked out different solutions to different commission structures for different sellers for different types of situations, so that I basically win the listings under all scenarios and I don't leave any money on the table. And it established it on a case-by-case situation. Like, so if I know somebody's like a fourth or fifth client and he's like, look, Jose, you don't do it for this, I got to go somewhere else because I've got this special situation, dude, I'll do it,
Yeah.
I want to retain the relationship.
Yeah, like in conclusion, okay, like practice, have like a track to handle that objection. Make sure you're setting it aside so you're not getting stuck and there's stuff behind it. 2, get very, very clear on what your actual value proposition is. And then 3, make business decisions. All right, team, your boy's out. Peace.